Isaiah 19 verse 15. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush, may do. Isaiah chapter 30 verse 1. Woe to the rebellious children, save the Lord Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. From the CNN Business Group warns of mass layoffs and catastrophic supply chain disruptions from Biden's, who, by the way, has become the most disappointing American president since World War II, a poll reveals. Crack scene mandate by Matt Egan, CNN Business.
It's the unofficial logistics center for Carrera Revel, working desperately to get their toys into the U.S. in time for this holiday season.
Okay, just giving you an update on the container situation in the moment.
President Frank Thiessen is manning the operation. Had you ever worked in logistics before?
Only peripherally, not directly.
Why did you have to get directly involved into logistics?
Because of the global supply chain challenges that we are facing.
Cargo vessels, order numbers, and arrival dates, all tracked with precision.
Pretty much the first thing in the morning is really checking the backlog in the warehouse.
Boxes of toys of the well-known slot car maker are stuck in their warehouses in China, waiting for a ride.
We still have about 25-30 containers which are just missing, which will not be here.
That's 30% of their holiday product. Just one of many companies dealing with a supply chain nightmare. With port congestion, containers shipped in May are just arriving to Carrera Revel's U.S. warehouse in Atlanta, 5 months behind schedule.
We have seen such a surge in the last 90 days.
Angela Higgs runs the freight forwarding company for Carrera Revel, tasked with receiving the toys and getting them out to retailers as quickly as possible.
It's been one delay after another, and we've, of course, been pushing and pushing and pushing, but these delays are inevitable right now.
With nearly every U.S. port facing a backlog, the warehouse is using all of them, piecing together a working supply chain.
We're just going everywhere we can. Otherwise, these goods are not going to get to the stores, and I'm not going to have anyone missing out on their toys this season.
To try to help with that, President Biden announced 2 major ports in California will move to operate 24/7. But for Thiessen, the problem now moves from the sea to the land. Does that help you guys?
No, it doesn't help. It just doesn't alleviate the problem, which we then have once the containers are all from board. There are not enough trucks, there are not enough freight trains to move the containers inland.
And this trucking shortage really is the weakest link of this entire supply chain. If the trucks can't get to the ports and move cargo, then the ports are backed up. And there's a growing consensus amongst officials that this supply chain crisis is going to go well into 2022. So buy early, don't expect to get everything you want, and this season expect to pay higher prices. John?
The worst is yet to come. The worst is yet to come. Shalom. All blessings, honors, and glories be unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Kodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth, as well as men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy, to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Sharatazah. This lesson is edifying. President JB's crack scene order will force employers to lay off thousands of workers, making the supply chain crisis much worse, and the worst is yet to come. A major business group warned the White House this week. The National Association of Wholesaler Distributors, an influential trade group that represents an industry with nearly 6 million workers, is pleading with the administration to delay a December 8th deadline for employees of federal contractors to get jabinated. If tens of hundreds of thousands of employees are terminated just 2 weeks before so-called Christmas, the result could be nothing short of catastrophic for the newly unemployed and their families and for the U.S. economy. Eric Hoplin, the NAW's president and CEO, wrote in a Wednesday letter to Biden. Because without workers, supply chains cannot function, especially the global supply chain that has been experiencing an ongoing bottleneck and shortages due to lack of workers. Because if there aren't workers to move things around within the supply chain, and things will only bottleneck and become stagnant. Hence, we will see delays, and then for that reason we will see higher prices, not to mention the effects of inflation and shrinkflation and then hyperinflation, which we should all understand what these terms mean, will also be lingering around. People have already been paying massively for meats, for chicken, beef, and those that unlawfully eat that goddamn swine. They've been paying a lot more money for these things. People were probably paying about $15 for chicken, just using this as an example, but are now paying about $50. That's due to inflation, man, which will soon become hyperinflation, a hyper expansion of money supply in the economy to the point where there is no supply to balance out the demand, which weakens the dollar. Because the dollar will eventually crash, which that's the goal of Esau, Edom's elite, as you can clearly see anyway, so that they can introduce and roll out their New World Order agenda, which is to mandate that chip. It says the trade group's members include groceries, lumber, florists, beer, wine, and various other distributors. So, again, the worst is yet to come. The Biden executive order, signed last month, requires employees of contractors that do business with the federal government to get jabinated against C-19, with no option of being regularly tested to opt out. The order, which applies to subcontractors as well, is aimed at preventing the spread of C-19. To avoid a calamity, the law urged Biden, to provide alternatives, including testing, and to consider a short-term delay to avoid further disruption to supply chain. Esau is not going to let that fly because they're moving fast. Spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has had them moving very, very quickly. And also gradually, because Edom is a master at gradualism. White House pushes back. See? In response, the White House pointed to comments made this week by Jeff Zients, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Zients, the administration's C-19 response coordinator. JABSIN's requirements work. They've increased JABSIN rates by 20+% points to over 90% in most organizations, Sinise told reporters this week. Sinise pointed out that the first step for employees who do not get vaccinated is a period of education and counseling. Gradualism towards concentration camps, so-called re-education camps, and those that refuse to get re-educated will be offed. Those that refuse to take that jab, which ultimately is going to be that chip when they mandate it, is going to get offed, not termination. See, and they're using their sorcery, their wordplay, which he always does, but within his heart he's devising different wicked methods. The requirement for federal workers and contractors will not cause disruptions to government services that people depend on. How you figure? Zionists said agencies have the flexibility necessary to enforce the mandate without impacting critical operations. Southwest Airline CEO Gary Kelly also expressed confidence this week that the JABC mandate will not disrupt travel. Well, a lot of pilots have been leaving their jobs from various different reports. See, a lot of things are happening that they're not telling people because they don't want to scare people. We want our employees to know that nobody's going to lose their job on December 9th if you're not perfectly in compliance, Kelly said on Thursday. Some workers would rather get fired than vaxxed. Supply chains are under extreme stress right now, thanks to epic port congestion, a shortage of truck drivers, and a lack of storage containers. The Lord said that suddenly shall the sown places appear on stone, and the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. In 2 Ezra chapter 6, verse 23 or 24, if I'm not mistaken. And America ultimately is that sown place because it's been sown with nothing, which the word sow means to scatter, by the way. It's been sown with nothing but wickedness. Sown with the rape, rob, and murdering of the Israelites. And then we have their farmlands, which they sow seed to bring forth different goods. Then you have their supermarkets, their storehouses, their key food, their grocery stores. All these places are considered sown places, which are on their way to being found empty, and will ultimately all be found empty, including the full storehouses, because of shortages, because of famine. It says a shortage of truck drivers and a lack of storage containers. The crisis is jacking up prices on consumers, limiting options for shoppers, and causing significant delays. Biden officials have acknowledged it and will take time to ease bottlenecks, and the pressure will likely extend into next year. The NAW stressed that its members are strongly in favor of getting Americans jabinated. Nothing that members have offered JABSIN bonuses, gift cards, gas cards, and vacation days. One company even offered trips to Las Vegas as an incentive. NAW members Non-member companies are also firmly pro-jab scene for their own employees and want their teams to be healthy and safe. Hoplin wrote, their interest in getting their employees jabinated is greater than the government's interest. The article pretty much goes on because, as you can see, it's a very lengthy article. Well, actually, it ends here, so I might as well just finish reading it out and then go to the scriptures. But I'll read it out quick. It says, still the trade group said some employees across the distribution industry, for whatever reason, refused to get jabinated, risking the determination of thousands of employees just before the holidays. Many of these workers have told employees directly and unequivocally that they would choose to be fired if required to get jabinated, Hopkins said, adding that these workers are disproportionately from communities of color and tend to be lower income. The already compromised supply chain will be under added pressure during the busiest time of the year, and the already tight labor market will make it immeasurably more difficult to replace laid-off employees, Hopkins said. Many businesses are struggling to find workers right now. A record 4.3 million Americans quit their jobs in August, and employees reported a near all-time high in job openings. Come December, many companies will be unable to keep products moving through their warehouses and distribution centers to satisfy growing consumer demand if forced to terminate these essential workers, Hoplin wrote. This concludes the article, which Lord's willing I will leave in the description box of this lesson. So now let's go back to the scriptures. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1. Woe to the rebellious children, save the Lord Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me. And who is the rebellious children? The children of Israel, the sons and daughters of the nation of Israel. So-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners. Because they take counsel from Joe Biden, from the government, from their governors, from their local mayors in their respective cities, from their so-called leaders of our own people, which cause them to err because they languish, they fail in strength, because they don't judge our people according to the principles of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, according to the laws of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, but not of me. And I cover with a covering, but not of my spirit. Why? Because they cover with the covering of Esau Edom. They cover with the covering of the wicked, with the covering of democracy, with the covering of idolatry, bestiality, sodomy. Okay? Wickedness, ultimately. But not of my spirit, because they don't live their laws according to the laws of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay? They don't live their lives according to the laws of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. They don't take heed to the counsels of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Rather, they want to do their own thing. They don't want to stop eating pork, shrimp, crab, lobster, and these kind of different things. They don't want to stop committing idolatry, adultery. They want to keep living that YOLO epicureanistic lifestyle. That do as thou wilt lifestyle, that wicked, demonic, profane lifestyle, that they may add sin to sin. What is sin? Transgression of the law. 1 John 3 and 4. Sin to sin is called iniquity. It's the stacking of sin. That walked to go down into Egypt, which is America, Revelation 11 and 8. Okay? Egypt means bondage, because this is the land of our captivity. Okay? That walked to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, who's modern day Pharaoh, Joe Biden, which now it's been being brought out that this man is considered the worst president since World War II in a poll, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. So they trust in the protections of America, Babylon the Great. They trust in America's government, in America's military, in America's technology, in America's finances, which has obviously been failing them now more so than ever, because Now we're seeing the effects of a weak dollar and inflation, and soon we'll see hyperinflation. Now we're seeing global supply chain disruptions and shortages, all because of Pharaoh, who they trust and who they have strengthened themselves in, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame. Now it's to their shame. Now they're clearly seeing that this guy, he wasn't the way. See, Biden becomes most disappointed American president since World War II. Poll reveals. Now they're ashamed, because now they see that this man was not really for their own benefit. Why? Because they trust in Egypt so much. Now it's going to be to their confusion, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt, your confusion. You're going to bug out and wonder why things are happening. You're going to say, well, he thought this guy, he was going to bring change. Oh, well, clearly you're wrong. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. That shall reveal upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Because they were promising you Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, peace. But look what's going on right now. You seek peace, but destruction is on the way. Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. This is a good one too. Jeremiah 51, verse 54. A sound of a cry cometh from Babylon, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans. And the land of the Chaldeans is here in America, Babylon the Great. And that great destruction is going to be when the Lord ultimately destroys this place with thermonuclear fire. But before that, there's going to be Jacob's trouble. There's going to be confusion and chaos. Verse 26, mischief, Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 26, mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet. They're going to seek the word of the Lord, but they won't find it. Why? Because there's going to be a famine of the word. But the law shall perish from the priests and counsel from the ancients. That's why niggas going to be asked out, man. 2/3 are going to be asked out. 2 Ezra chapter 15, verse 16, for there shall be sedition. What is sedition? Basically uproar against lawful authority, against the government by the people, among men. People won't regard their governments, their mayors, their police forces. They'll take things into their own hands and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, and the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor. Because Yahushua said in the book of St. Matthew 24, verse 12, that because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation because of famine, which is right around the corner, man. We're here. And for great tribulation. So great tribulation is coming upon this earth by reason of the anger of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. The Lord is going to remind the world why he should be feared, why he must be feared, and why one of his titles is Al-Shadia, terrible demon-like power. Okay, so with that, Lord's willing, this lesson was edifying to the elect. Lord's willing, until the next, I say shalom to the elect.